Welcome back. And can I just ask two questions? You're free to answer others, but there are two particularly interesting points that Advocate Mhaga has made. One is, why did you not give them an opportunity to respond before you published the report? And two, your report doesn't seem to have taken account of the vast number of prosecutions which have been successfully implemented by the NPA, which in his view casts an entirely different light upon the performance of the NPA to date.
I think the first point is that the focus of our report is on the major corruption cases. We didn't look at what else you're doing. So our focus was on Zondo Commission, Eskom, Transnet, these absolutely fundamental institutions for the economy and for our society, and which were the source of, nobody actually knows the final number, but billions and billions and billions of rands that were looted. So this report only focuses on the major corruption cases which have been singularly lacking in successful prosecution. The second point is we very much support the idea of using the offers that have been made to the NPA from the private sector, from private law firms, as much as is possible. And we know and would support the recent announcement of the, I think it's a forensic data unit with the organized business. These units need to be constructed carefully, but we're in favor of them in general. But we still don't understand why it's taken so long. There were numerous offers made to the NPA from private law firms, for example, that were rebuffed. So we welcome the change in attitude, and we would say more, more, more. So that's two of the issues. The third is I want to deal with the advocate says, why did we not come to the NPA?
Yes,
it was our judgment. We spoke to a lot of people who know the NPA well, and I'm not sure. I think Advocate Cheadle tried to get to some senior people in the NPA. I don't know if he actually did. But it was our judgment that we should write to the Minister of Justice, which I did at least 3 weeks ago, if not a month ago, to say we were doing this work and that it seemed protocol to go to her first, and could we come and talk to her about this? But we have had no response whatsoever.
With respect, number one, it doesn't seem to me from the press that the NPA and the ministers are going to be exchanging Christmas cards, but much more important than that, I mean, as a self-contained institution, wouldn't you have been better advised to speak to Advocate Batoy and say, look, we've got these problems, what are your responses? Wouldn't that have been fair? That's, I think, Advocate Mhaga's complaint.
I take the point. A fair point. Okay. We should have done that. Okay. We didn't.
I'm not entirely sure that anybody running the NPA could cope with the sort of barrage of corruption and criminality in this country in a manner which would satisfy all of us. Isn't it just a simple question that the demand for the NPA is always going to exceed its supply, if I could put it that way?
Look, we certainly understand that the demands on the NPA are enormous, and a country that is trying, we hope, to get out of an incredible period of industrial scale looting has enormous demands on it. But it seems to me one needs to be honest about this challenge. One needs to say loudly, publicly, and with as much force as possible, we need help. We need the private sector to help us for a period in order to deal with the demand. We can't deal with everyone, but we have to get some very senior people involved in the looting, prosecuted, and if guilty, in jail. We need that assistance. We need the executive to back the NPA unconditionally.
Advocate Mhaga, it does seem to me, just picking up on the last point that Ann Bernstein made,
sure.
An important point. SARS was subjected to a very careful and extraordinarily efficient scrutiny by a very experienced and distinguished judge, Judge Robert Nugent. I think if you ask people in SARS, they would probably say that SARS benefited enormously from the work that he was done. Why would the NPA in any way not welcome a similar inquiry into its operation? How could it not do anything other than essentially promote the activities of the NPA?
Judge, if there was a crisis in the NPA, I would be keen to engage with you on this proposition. But I have made it clear that the institution was hollowed out by state capture. But President Ramaphosa appointed a competent and a capable national director in the form of Advocate Batoyi, whose task was successfully carried out by stabilizing the institution.
Well, you say that. I'm sorry again to interrupt you.
Hence, I have been able to demonstrate to you our performance in the past 5 years. Now, is there a need to kind of commission of inquiry into performance when it's so
if you were doing,
outstanding?
it's a simple point, really. If you were doing a wonderful job, you shouldn't fear at all. And if they find that there are things that are wrong, and let's be frank about it, you may say you're doing a wonderful job, but the fact of the matter is there's widespread criticism about the NPA almost on a daily basis in the press. You know that. You have to defend the NPA. I'm not saying it's all justified. That's not my point. But this report has made a number of points which would certainly indicate that, that at least let's have an independent investigation to determine the health thereof. It basically vindicates the principle of accountability. What's wrong with that?
We are not at variance here, Judge.
Okay.
But my point is to dispel any myth that we are not performing well as an institution. However, if that commission of inquiry is there to strengthen the institution, to ensure prosecutorial capacity, to ensure effective prosecution of cases in high-profile matters, in state capture cases, obviously we would welcome that.
Good. So now we're getting somewhere. And I accept that, because let me just put this to you. I mean, it's not your fault if you don't know. If you look at the Nugent report, it's precisely what he did. He made a series of recommendations, which to their great credit, SARS has sought not entirely, but very substantially to implement. It's made it a better institution. There should be no reason why your boss, the National Director of Public Prosecution, say, we have nothing to hide, we understand the criticism, let's get an independent and experienced judge in. If he can do it in the same short time that Judge Nugent did, 3 to 6 months, we welcome that. And we will make every cooperation with him or her in order to ensure that, in fact, the report constructively adds to our capacity.
It would be welcome if such an inquiry would be extended to the entire value chain in the criminal justice system to ensure that the prosecutorial component of the criminal justice is enhanced, not only them, but the crime intelligence, detective services in the South African Police Service, to ensure that even the forensic investigative capacity is enhanced.
I agree.
So such a commission of inquiry would have to be robust, would have to be holistic in its approach.
One other question. I'm sorry I'm running out of time, and I do apologize for interrupting, but it's the only way I can keep the debate going. Could I ask you this? One of the points made by Ann Bernstein and in the report is that there's a very senior member of the NPA who has been recommended for suspension by the National Director of Public Prosecutions. And the President doesn't seem to have done anything about that. That's not your fault, of course. But isn't that disturbing?
It would be best placed for the matter to be responded to by the person under whose authority decisions need to be made.
But isn't it to the benefit of the... But surely, sorry to interrupt you.
Decision in that regard.
But surely if the National Director of Public Prosecution, in her wisdom, decides that this particular person has done such a lot of mischief that they should be suspended, the President, on the line that Ann Bernstein's taken, should support the NPA by not doing anything. They haven't done that.
As I've indicated, Judge, the Presidency is best placed in responding to that.
Okay, I understand where you're coming from. Unfortunately, I've run out of time, and that's a pity, because I could have done another half an hour on this vital issue. Let me start by saying, I think that CDE, notwithstanding the criticisms that have been made, has done a fine job in putting forward a report which seeks to examine the NPA. Whether it's correct or not is not the point. The major point about it is it focuses attention so we can have this kind of debate on an essential organization. And let's be quite frank about it. The National Prosecuting Authority is a central plank of democracy and the perpetuation of democracy by ensuring that crooks are put behind bars and that corruption actually is visited by the full force of the criminal law. Does this report, as it were, reflect adequately and accurately the state of play of the NPA now? You've heard both sides. You would have to judge for yourself. You can talk to us at X, tweeted judge_ENCA. Good night.